Know thy enemy. Doesn't it help to know your enemy? But what if your enemy was hidden? What if your enemy was sugar? Oh no. The Case Against Sugar by Gary Taubes is a murder mystery wherein sucrose and high fructose corn syrup are the prime suspects. Realize a third of all adults are obese, 2/3 are overweight, almost 1 in 7 is diabetic, and 1 in 4 to 5 will die of cancer, says Taubes. We're dealing with an epidemic. What is going on with these diseases? Diabetes has now killed more people in the 20th century than all wars combined, said Kelly West in 1978. That's right, back in 1978 they knew this. Number 1, how do we know it's sugar? What Taubes is asking is what happens when you introduce sugar into a population that doesn't consume sugar, and then you compare it to one who does. For example, populations that were introduced to sugar that we can compare to ours, like the Kenyan, Inuit, Native Americans, the Toklans, and European populations before 1912, and see what happens after that. When they're introduced to the Western diet, well, we see a big spike of diabetes, and thus medical ills, like Alzheimer's, which, as you know, is diabetes of the brain, and cancer, which feeds off of sugar. It's always good to be reminded that cancer feeds off of sugar. So here we have this society in America, it's often rich societies by the way, who can afford the sugar. Granted, it's gotten cheaper, but the average American consumes 67 pounds of sucrose by last estimates in 2014. It's probably a low number even. Can you imagine what that much sugar does to the body? Just that alone, 67 pounds. So how do we prove that it's sugar, which is my big number 2? It's not easy to prove this case. It's not like cigarettes where researchers could compare smokers with non-smokers and, oh, the lungs are black. He must be a smoker. There are no black lungs with sugar. 3, is sugar a drug? Likewise with crack, heroin, cocaine, and all these drugs, they have instantaneous effects, but sugar's weird because its effects are cumulative and they happen over time. Does it matter if it kills you in 20 years or in 2? Isn't a poison still a poison? We like to pass sugar off as harmless, don't we? We give it to kids and they cry out in ecstasy. You know what happens when you give sugar to kids? You know how their eyes totally light up? They know what's up. Same with rats. Not to compare rats to kids, but if you let a rat choose between cocaine and sugar, they'll actually choose the sugar water. That's because it's affecting the reward centers of the brain, you know, the limbic system, specifically the nucleus accumbens. Until recently, nutritionists studying sugar did so from the perspective of viewing sugar as a nutrient or a carb. That's what they saw it. They saw it as nothing more than a carb, which did bode well for them, for the sugar industry, you know, if you can't pinpoint the problem. And there are big corporations with millions of dollars in propaganda who are fighting for sugar. Even Roosevelt said basically like, holy shit, look at this industry. The sugar industry is massive. It's like oil. But now we know that the more we use sugar, the less dopamine we produce naturally in the brain, and thereby we lose dopamine receptors, which means we need more of the drug to get the same pleasure response as Taubes. The question is, does sugar cross that line where it's an addictive drug? We can love sex, for instance, and find it intensely pleasurable without being sex addicts, can we? We can buy a new pair of shoes, which will stimulate dopamine, but that doesn't mean we need 100 pairs of shoes, does it, ladies? My wife has so many shoes, oh my God, I can't even get in the closet. Like in the hall closet where guests come in, they're like, where do I put my coat? There's so many shoes in here, I can't get in here in this closet. Number 4, are we all addicted then? And so the kids, our kids become accustomed to this, literally hardwired. And weren't we kids once? I mean, we are literally hardwired before we're even born from our moms in the very womb who are probably addicted as well. And so our populations react in the same way that kids do. In other words, we can't get enough. I can't get enough sugar. All our holidays are planned around sugar. Of course, I'm gonna have a cake at my birthday and Christmas. I'll even associate my wife to sugar. That's how much I love it. I'll call her Sweetie Pie, Honey Pie, Sugar. This is the person I love the most. This is the person I revere. I revere her, I worship her. In New Guinea, where in their first creation myths, have the human race emerging from the sexual congress of the first man and a stalk of sugar cane. Thank you so much for joining me today, and feel free to share this video with any of your friends. This book is so interesting. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and thumbs up button if you haven't already. Meanwhile, have a fantastic week. I'll see you next Friday. It was great, as always.